First this evening, the latest on the search for erased and destroyed African-American cemeteries across the Tampa Bay area. This is 10 Tampa Bay at 6. I'm Dave Wagner.
And I'm Carolina Lead. We recently told you about a historic black cemetery in East Tampa that sold to a property investor in an online auction. Tonight, 10 Investigates Emerald Morrow asks the mayor directly, how did this cemetery slip through the city's hands?
7 seconds after 10 a.m. on January 6th, a historic black cemetery went up for sale in a Hillsborough County auction.
I got depressed.
Just 3 minutes and 56 seconds later, the century-old cemetery with at least 6,000 graves belonged to a man who says he knew nothing about the site.
My grandfather, who was in World War II, he's buried here.
Her mother and brother, too. And now that a for-profit investor owns Memorial Park Cemetery, Noreen Copeland Miller worries her mom and loved ones who served in war cannot rest in peace.
We don't have that peace of mind anymore.
Eileen Henderson of the Cemetery Society says she felt the same.
I started to get very angry because I know the value in this cemetery.
With a passion for honoring the dead, Henderson had been organizing cleanups at Memorial. She reached out to 10 Investigates in January after the city told her those cleanups must now go through the new owner.
My initial reaction was shock. What? I didn't know it was up for sale.
Established in 1919, Memorial Park Cemetery buried black Tampanians when white cemeteries refused.
This is Tampa's history, Tampa's black history.
But after the owner died in 2019, Mayor Jane Castory says no one wanted control.
His heirs didn't want any part of that land, and that's why the city took it over, and we have been maintaining it for probably close to 2 years now.
Actually, longer than that. 10 Investigates got records that show since 2019, the city has spent more than $197,000 on fencing and upkeep. A big investment. So how did the cemetery slip from the city's hands?
It's a little convoluted, isn't it?
Spokesperson Adam Smith told me initially the city did not want to own the cemetery, but later reconsidered. That was after looking at how much they had already spent and seeing that no community groups were interested in taking over. He said the owner's estate did not want to deed the cemetery directly to the city, so the city placed liens on the property and directed its attorney to set it for foreclosure. That led to an auction through the county clerk of court. For some, a frustrating move.
We were never informed about the cemetery was in foreclosure at all.
Mayor Castory says it was the only viable path to a deed.
That's why that lien was put in, so that we could take over the ownership once and for all.
But that plan backfired. Court records show the city and 3 others bid on the cemetery. We spoke to all 3 who said they never knew it was a graveyard. We wanted to know how that was possible, so we created our own account on the county's foreclosure site. You can see here in the registered user view, the auction listing does not mention a cemetery, but it does provide the address and a link to the property appraiser, where the cemetery is clearly labeled. The clerk's office says properties are listed weeks in advance, so bidders can do their due diligence.
They thought that it was developable land, so they didn't do their research. We're very confident that we're going to be able to take ownership of Memorial.
But some say it should have never gotten this far in the first place. The city bid an amount equal to the court judgment, which was about $9,800. And within 3 minutes of the auction opening, just after 10 a.m., property investor Alexis Arteaga was the lead bidder with $18,000. 3 seconds after 10:04, he was the new rightful owner of Memorial Park Cemetery.
Where was the city? Why weren't they counterbidding? Because they can counterbid.
We took those questions straight to the mayor.
We thought that bid that we put in would cover the lien that was against it, and didn't imagine that others would bid.
So why only bid for the amount that the liens were for? Why not go any higher?
Right. Well, we could have gone higher, clearly, not knowing that there were other individuals bidding on that. But an assumption, and I know all mistakes are made by assumption, that no one else, people would understand that that was a cemetery and there was no value in the private market.
Really? Because you know, Emerald, you and I just a year, 2 years ago, we were having this discussion about a developer wanting to build on cemetery property.
That was at Showman's Rest Cemetery in Tampa, but there are other examples throughout history. Over the last 3 years, archaeologists have found nearly 800 graves under apartments, schools, and businesses from 4 cemeteries destroyed for redevelopment. Florida law protects burials, but the past still makes some afraid for the future.
Who's to say what they want to try to do years from now when we're no longer here?
In a statement, the city said the new owner had 10 days to back out, and his real estate representative spoke to the city attorney's office about this being a protected cemetery, but he chose to go ahead and close on the purchase. We spoke to the new owner by phone, but he refused an on-camera interview. He said the city made an offer for roughly what he paid for the cemetery, $18,000 plus about $12,000 in other fees. He told me he probably won't accept this offer, and he wants a third-party appraisal, even though its current assessed value is just $100.
My anger now has grown to the owner because he has a responsibility to the city of Tampa as well and to all of the citizens here, including the Black community and those families that have people buried here.
Families that don't want to wait another second for closure.
I want them to do what's right. I want justice for the souls and the many families that loved ones are buried in the cemetery.
Emerald Morrow, 10 Investigates.
As Emerald mentioned, there are hundreds of graves from destroyed Black cemeteries across the area. To read more about these discoveries, head to 10tampabay.com/erased.